Welcome back. We're in game. It's a best of 3 TVZ, and it is getting started nice and quick. In the top right, as the red Terran, it is MarineLorD. In the bottom left, as the blue Zerg, it is Stephano. And he is going to be 2 racks at the very least. Nope, 3 racks, as that third SV is coming along. Thank you very much to Horus TV for the host. Hope you guys enjoy the games. This is going to be my last series. I mean it this time. I really shouldn't be using my voice anymore, but I can't help it. The next match, whoever wins this is going to a qualifying match. Whoever wins this faces Ziggy. Whoever wins that has qualified. The top side of the bracket's held up by Art and Beastie Cutie. The bottom side is held up by Kerr and Rodson. They still have a ways to go, but the tournament is finishing up here. There are other lovely English casters, if that is your preferred choice of language, plus a bunch of other language casters as well, covering a variety of games. So I would rather keep my voice for Sunday, where I plan on, right now I plan on casting both of the WCS qualifiers, but we'll see about that. But yes, we do have a 3 racks underway, something that Stephano's main overlord went and saw. So that's the fastest overlord that can really go and see this, by the way. The second overlord is usually the one that goes left, right, center to try and find something out, or alternatively stays in the middle to try and see the SCVs coming. In this case, Stephano got a bit of a luckier scout than usual. MarineLorD maybe putting it in 2. It's like it's mind game on mind game. It's too obvious. I don't know. But the point is, we have Marines coming forward here. Stephano might have seen this coming, but he already chose his build, his opener, so it's not like he had a pool first and he could chrono boost something else up, right? So he's going to try and respond to the best of his ability, but the drone pool might be a little late. That bunker's already halfway done. There's already a decent number of Marines. Marines come forward as the Lings meet them. Simple stutter set back with the help of 1 or 2 SCVs, and that bunker's going to finish. But 2 spine crawlers are almost done. One's done. Another one will finish. No room for queens, however, as Stephano put all of his minerals into that. No room for a second queen. The first one will come down to help out just a tiny, tiny little bit, but it's better than nothing. Marines boldly go where many 2 racks and 3 racks have gone before, actually, but still. Try and take out the spine crawler. It doesn't work out, and Stephano might just hold here. The spine crawler does outrange the bunker, although not if it's in poor position. There we go. But there are more Marines on the way. SCV still repairing here so that there is a chance for these Marines to bulk up on numbers again. Very clutch transfuse. Heals that one spine crawler was getting awfully low, and in fact, the queen even lives. Oh, good lord. Things are really starting to turn on MarineLorD here, as he is still dedicating to this. Now, there is a chance. There's a macro game. As MarineLorD is up by 8 workers, 7 workers. But he's not going for it. He is just continuing to build Marines, occasionally and out again SCV. If he was going to go for a macro game, he would have had to start his gas geysers, refineries. He would have had to start defending back at home. But he's going to go for it. He grabs the queen. Despite the bunker going down, he still has a fair number of Marines, and he can still make more. Oh, he's actually going to go for an expansion. Okay. Oh, but he wins anyways, so it doesn't matter. He took out the hatchery towards the end there. That was a tight one, you know? That was close. The spine crawler, the second spine crawler had been finished when it was supposed to be. That is a stronger, faster break on the natural. Maybe he wouldn't have had the necessity to build as many Lings as they did, so that's a second queen with a transfuse. I mean, a couple things could have gone differently, but at the end, the just amount of Marines ended up snowballing, which can always happen. It's always a risk. But I actually thought that Stephano was going to have it. I did, so. GG. I think he's going to have a hold. I don't know if he's going to have the game. As I was talking about, that worker difference was quite big. Tree's out doing 24 hours. I never expect that from me, guys. Even when I'm at the height of my StarCraft passion, even if someone pays me $10,000, well, okay, maybe I'll do it for $10,000, but someone pays me $1,000 to do it, even then, no. 24 hours with even, you know, nice breaks, like I'm really good about taking a 10-minute break every hour, which would kill a stream anyways, would actually kill me. it would wreck my body for days after, and that's not great. So, kudos to anyone who wants to do that to themselves. I know it's a cool thing, but I'm kind of on the party pooper side of things for 24-hour streams, to be honest. Not that I'm gonna go into someone's stream and go like, you shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not that type of person, but if you're gonna be like, ZombieGrub, why not? I'd list the whole health problems that can exist when you do something like that, plus any health problems you already have that's get affected by it, and yeah, no thank you. That is for someone with better health, I guess, than me. Anyways, I can't believe he's doing it, and I can't believe people do it fully on StarCraft either. I mean, I'll have times where I want to play StarCraft, and you divvy things up between team games, co-op, 1v1s, you know, campaign even, you know, okay, fine, I get it. It can work, but man, we're already doing all 24 hours of StarCraft 1v1. Aperture Zelda trying to do the same thing. That is extra insane. I will just continue to be flabbergasted by such attempts. Anywho, in the bottom left is the blue Terran. It is MarineLorD. In the top right is the red Zerg. It is Stephano. Not too worried about a second proxy barracks as he once again goes for the hatch gas pool. I have to actually tweet the tweet I made. Jesus. Reaper on the way for MarineLorD as command center comes down. It's totally normal stuff here. Automaton has been a map I've seen a lot of the Cyclone shenanigans on, and a decent amount of battlecruiser rushes as well. Does MarineLorD prescribe to any of those medicines? I would guess so, actually. I was gonna say I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm on the side of I think he's gonna do one of those. Either the Cyclone mech or the battlecruiser opener into maybe mech, maybe bio, we'll see. He seems awfully up to date on the meta, and he is, I think, a player that is capable of using the new, maybe sillier metas. You know, the battlecruiser thing will probably fall out of the meta regardless of Blizzard's nerfs or buffs or whatever to it, right? I think that was just inevitable as time went on. So some people don't bother learning it, right? Or they learn it, but they don't really, you know, they don't perfect it. They don't really learn the ins and outs. No, I think MarineLorD does that to anything that seems like a good new build. So I would not be surprised at all. We're getting to that point where we'll figure it out very, very soon. Stephano has also got to keep that in mind. Even if it doesn't happen, that should be something on Stephano's mind. Thank you, Banjo Squid. No. For the 4-month resub. Yeah, it's some rapid. It's a rapid casting. It's a rapid. The Viper did a 24-hour stream, received one $10,000 donation. Good lord. They said maybe I'd do it for 10K, but even then it'd be like, well, that's me taking a week off after, trying to repair what damage did to my body. So it is not battlecruisers, it is just a typical Banshee. And I guess it still could be mech here. We'll find that out soon as well. If a tech lab's added to the barracks or not within the next 30 seconds. Kind of a big tell when it does that. Overlord Stephano is still alive to see exactly when the third CC comes down. There we go. He also sees that it is a third CC down there. A supply depot down there as well. So if he didn't see that, he might consider that it's a fast 3cc build. Now, not so much. He knows roughly what's going on. And if it's this information, you got the Helens, get the third CC on the low ground. It's a strong chance there's a Banshee or at least a Liberator on the way. So spur calls on every base are usually called for. Maybe you can skip the natural if you're feeling ballsy, but I think Stephano is going to err on the side of caution, just as he did versus Protos's Oracles. Kind of hiding the Lings a little bit. You want them to dive too far forward, then surprise them with Queens and Lings, get them out of the game as quick as possible if you can, and especially if they're going to go into bio beyond it. Then if you get the Hellions out of there, you can actually even initiate a counterattack and delay the third CC for a little while from landing anyways. We have the, yeah, okay, double armory. That's a big tell. That is the tell of going for mech. But we also had a swap over of the tech lab that was produced on the barracks, but not for stim. So very safe tank. If this was a fast muta build, or if it was a Ling Baneling bust, maybe the tank would have trouble if the Hellions died. But the Hellions aren't dying. The tank is here in case it's roaches as well. Some of the Banshees also would have helped out against. And it's a very safe opener here. And since he is going for double armory, he is going to be, like, you know, a little greedier. He won't have the additional 2 factories as fast, because he's also going for, I believe that's a 3rd Banshee, yeah, so. The other version of this is go for 1 armory, 2 Banshees, then maybe have your 2 extra factories down nice and quick, and you just continue producing Hellions whenever you can. And you even skip that tank, which is, you know, it's a little risky. But different variations here. Since he is starting off with 2 tanks, I am wondering if it is just the old-fashioned mech. He could go for 2 or maybe even 3 tanks for defense and then swap over. And we have seen some people do it with double armory as well, though typically Cyclones are used with 1 armory. Before the patch, it was for +1 attack. You know, now it's for +1 armor, but yeah. Can be done with 2. If he goes into a 4th tank, I'm just gonna say, okay, yeah, that's the tank mech. Stephano's gonna have to identify that. He has not had much else in terms of information. Maybe a gas timing was a little kind of mechish, right? If this was really fast, the Overlord saw it. But didn't see the armories. He hasn't seen the production here. He hasn't seen the army here. If it is bio, the double drop would have hit between 6:30 and 7:30. And so that timing of like, okay, here, is it coming, is it coming, is it coming, is gone. He's now... Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's not me.
Game paused.
He probably should have just let it... Unless it's one of the players, of course, but... Yeah, he could have let that go and seen who was dropping out. So anyways, he revealed that there's an armory and that this late of a time, that's gonna be mech. Which I'm not sure that Stephano knew. You know, I'm pointing out all these things, but sometimes, you know, I miss the one thing that kind of told them what was up. And they do have some semblance of the mech on the way. But I think Stephano is under the impression still that it's bio. But as I was saying, the double drops usually reveal themselves. You don't want to just not do anything. Even if your army's not that impressive, a bio player will always send something out. And sometimes the 2 medevac drops, if they're even a little bit fast, will do some serious damage. But that timing's now gone. And while Stephano still has Ling, Baneling, Hydra, and is still upgrading into the melee and Carapace, he does slap down the infestation pit basically when he saw the Hellbats. And now these Lings are going to see the amount of tanks. So fast hive. The Lings and Banelings aren't exactly what you want to depend on, but they can work out against mech. They can take care of the Hellbats, and then a Ling Flood does a surprisingly good job against the tanks after that. They're more of a good unit to have with something like Swarm Host, though, or if you can make it to Broodlords, because then they take out the Broodling Locust Killers that are the Blue Flame Hellbats. But yeah, you can make it work for the temporary lull in action as it is, because with Cyclones, there's not really a big lull in action. With mech, with tanks, there is a certain time. As we see here right now, right between 6 minutes and 10 minutes, right? If their build's going really well, they might be starting to attack at 10 minutes, but you get that time to basically say, I don't think they're going to do anything. And especially if they're going for like double upgrades, right? They're probably not going to be pushing anytime soon. They're going to be waiting for the 2-2, getting their 4CC up, and then pushing. But I think that usually hits around 10 minutes. Or changeling. Oh, the Ling. Vikings are on the way. You want that Viking count nice and high when you do the push to make sure the Vipers don't give you a hard time. Stephano might eventually want to go up to Broodlords, but first and foremost, he will have to get Vipers, as even though he's been given about 4 minutes to kind of just freely do what he wants, the Banshees are trying their best to stall it out, but they don't really do very much. He's got creep spread, he's got 5 bases. The time is coming that he will have to defend, and if he's still just on Lair Tech, especially not even like fully upgraded Lair Tech quite yet, the Hydes will have their 2 upgrades, but just barely, then he's going to be in trouble. He needs those Vipers. But as much as he's been able to expand and kind of conquer the map here, it's not like he's done much to MarineLorD either. So MarineLorD's push is hitting at a really perfect time. His 4th CC is already on the way, turning into a planetary. A 5th CC is even on the way. And this is a very strong push to deal with the Viking count as high as it is as well. The Vipers are going to have to be very, very, very careful with how they engage here. The Thors could even be turned into their single target mode to help out for that specifically. One Viking went down already to the Hydras, which honestly was a good kill. This one goes down as well. Banelings roll into a couple of tanks and do a surprising amount of damage here. Spire's on the way, but much more importantly, the Vipers are accruing that energy. 3 already, 4 more on the way. That might be a little bit too much, but Vipers are very, very good units. Queens can tank a shot or 2 from the tanks. So on the front lines, they're actually not that bad. Abducts are currently being used to take out the anti-air, so the Thors are now... not quite. The Vikings are left over, but there's not enough of them to one-shot Vipers, so the Blinding Clouds still come down, but some cool placing here from MarineLorD. He also had 2 tanks over to the left side that are getting some shots that I guess Stephano just simply wasn't expecting. Nice little split of 2 per section. Sure, section. We'll say that. But that was kind of cool. Surprised he was able to do that. The creep spread would have seen it initially. And usually you want them, in the ideal world, you have them literally spread out, one not quite close to another. But in the unideal world, having 2 close together and the rest spread out, oh, that works as well. No matter what, you just want them to have to use the most blinding clouds possible, or they run out of blinding clouds is the best case scenario, right? MarineLorD might have been stalled out in his push, but he is rallying forward. This 5th base is a 5th. So even though there was a brief glimmer of hope that maybe he caught the 4th in the making, he didn't. This is the 4th. There's extra command centers. One is going to lift over to the gold base. The attack is still underway. Vipers are losing their lives, but they are also setting down the abducts and the blinding clouds. Is it enough, however? Stephano is down to 2 Vipers and is going to barely clean everything up. A couple of Lings would have made sure to clean up the tank to the left side. He lost 27 SCVs while this went on, so I looked away for a second. That's when the Banelings rolled in. Almost got the command center as well, but didn't, and that is kind of important. You know, that's, I guess in this case, maybe it's not important, because this one would have just gone back to defend it, or replace it. But, I was going to bring up that with all these bases up and running, so that's a total of, hold on, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Oh, God. That's a total of 7 command centers that can start producing SCVs to replace that. And it's not like MarineLorD is on a low count to begin with. Speaking of worker count, Stephano had some trouble defending that push because he was on such a high worker count. He was still banking a lot while trading out there, which is the great thing about it. But the bad thing about it is that it does cut into your army supply. So, you know, that would have been the 20 or 30 extra Lings that would have surrounded some of those last tanks. It would have made the trade maybe a bit different. Finds the right side base and quickly gets the kill, is able to escape. These are good moves by Stephano to try and keep MarineLorD in check. At the same time, looking like he was about to be broken, is actually exploding in economy and tech. So this is, you know, for a time was looking like MarineLorD's game. It was very strong. It has been pushed back, and now we're going to talk about the usual end-all be-all of TVZ, of Mech versus Zerg, which is the Broodlord. They're very tricky to deal with. In fact, I don't think I've seen a Terran player who has an obvious answer to deal with them. Which sucks, because I really wish there was one, and then I would do it. There's not really an obvious one. You can go for Vikings, but then Parasitic Bomb suddenly gives you a hard time, right? Like a really, really hard time. You can go for Cyclones, but then Blinding Clouds even affect those. And Abducts start taking them out one by one as well. You can try and go for Thors, which work out temporarily when the Broodlord count is low and the Viper count is low. But at this case, in this situation, there's going to be a lot of Broodlords, probably. Stephano could just give up some supply here and remake entirely into Broodlords, and there will be a lot of Vipers to abduct the Thors as well. The Vipers are key. You know, I mentioned them for all of the scenarios because they are important units to every single one. Thus, meaning it's not as simple as the Zerg player A moving. The Vipers will have to be controlled. But, I mean, I've cast a decent amount of TVZs from very, 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 very good Terrans. And I can say that most of the time, the control goes in favor of the Zerg player. Now this attack on the left side is going to take care of the planetary, but it will lose a decent amount of Zerg lives in the process. Oh my god, the parasitic bombs have Liberators! Oh boy. Barely don't get the kill on them, but they did affect the Vikings for some time there. Lordy. Stephano has lost quite a few Vipers. 8 Vipers for 5 Vikings, 2 Liberators. Kind of an even trade, but that also contributes to a bit more of loss of life on the ground, as we know. There's still a decent amount of Vikings, but 5 actually isn't as... There we go. As much as I would be hoping for. Wait. I was looking at the wrong panel. I was going to say, that's definitely not 5. 8 is a good amount. Maybe go up to 10. But currently going into Liberators. He did not repair up his mechanical units, but he's got Thors in their single target mode to take out these Corruptors right now. They do help, but the Corruptors take out the Vikings much, much faster. There are no Broodlords, however, so the Vipers doing their job. Great. Where's the army to deal with the grounds? That's where the Broodlords usually arrive, but a lot of the army went over here to kill yet another base. Now putting MarineLorD down to just 4 bases, but still 4 bases. And Stephano does lose a base of his own. Both of them losing a few workers. MarineLorD never really replacing all the ones that he lost is more of the issue here. And we do finally have the Broodlords on the way as MarineLorD takes the cautionary way out. He actually didn't have to retreat right then and there, but in the time it would take him to clear up this creep spread and try and find access to the natural, would have been enough time for the Broodlords to finish. And he wasn't quite prepared to deal with them ever. After losing all of his Vikings... and only saving 2 Thors. Only making 2 Thors, right? He's trying to make more now. He lifted his main command center to take this base again. He does need it. He needs to be in a very secure economics position because he's probably going to continue taking nasty losses. Actually, in the units lost, it's really not so bad. It's just that Stephano has been on almost 90 drones for 16 minutes, only just now being called down. And he's had the bases to use 90 drones too, even with 1 or 2 going down at certain intervals. Upgrade, something I haven't really talked about. MarineLorD went so quick in that 2-2 at 10 minutes. He's had 3-3 for a while. Finally adding on some ship weapons as well. Stephano adding on his tier 3 upgrades. 3-3 for his ground. As well as already being at the +3 melee for the Broodlings. And then getting his air upgrades as well. He prioritized Carapace, which I think makes a lot of sense. But the flyer attack does help the Corruptors, obviously. It also helps the Broodlings when they are a projectile, when they're actually shooting towards something. I believe Broodlords are one of the only units that get, like, double 2 attack upgrades. So, that's cool. Cool or stupid? It's up to you. It's up to you. Dealer's choice. Building armor hasn't been done for a while. See, that's something that I think MarineLorD would have really wished he had earlier. Some of these command centers going down would have been just barely slash... like, would have taken a lot more from Stephano to do. More costly investments into that. Building armor can be very helpful. And how do you deal with this Broodlord army? We now have Infestors being upgraded as well, which is going to be another headache for the Vikings to deal with, and he is going into Vikings. No parasites being researched, so the Thors are no longer the perfect option. You really need the perfect army composition as well as the perfect army positioning, which is very hard to do with a mech army like this. Even though Stephano's Broodlords are slow, the rest of it is quite fast, and because Broodlords are air, they are in ways fast units, right? I don't have a lot of faith here, guys, for the Terran player. I think Stephano's going to bring it back to a 1-1. We'll see how this goes. Liberators get into their mode to help against the Broodlings primarily. Good split away from the parasitic bomb, and the Vipers are low on energy. They've been cut down to just 3, which might be a mistake from Stephano to let that have gone down for so long. but he's been replacing his supply so much with not workers, not vipers, but rather with those corruptors and broodlords that he has a decent amount of them. But those broodlords are getting a little low. These Thors are getting some shots off on, and the Vikings getting free shots as well, as most of the corruptors have died here, and the vipers aren't just blanketing the entire armies with parasitic bomb, and MarineLorD is pushing forward an even supply. I didn't have any faith here, but this might be a perfect combination of units. Stephano does have some energy left over on the vipers, but only for abducts, I believe, not for the parasitic bombs, and that's just barely going to result in a MarineLorD victory. No, hold on here. Lings come forward. No Hellbats protect the Thors, even as they take out that last broodlord. 4 corruptors, 3 corruptors turn into broodlords. Oh, just getting back to 4 broodlords. That was really, really, really close there. And MarineLorD, oh man. If he had more Hellbats protecting him against the broodlings and the Ling Flood, he might still have the higher army supply, or at least even. But then we'd have to talk about the bank, just like I'm going to do right now. That bank is a problem. MarineLorD has had to replace so many buildings, so many command centers. He's also lost 1 orbital that he usually would bank on having at this stage in the game. And he does not have an easy max out. And even if he did have a bank, he would need so many production facilities to match the remax potential of a Zerg player. Kudos for the almost break of Stephano's army, but I don't think it's a winning game here for a Terran player. Stephano probably ran out of larva. No, definitely not. So he's just not quite maxed out yet. Waiting to put those corruptors into broodlords, I guess. Another hold here for MarineLorD. Stephano wasn't quite really ready to go. He was hoping to pounce on an open planetary and found it somewhat defended. 19 Hydras are invested into as well. Just, I mean, it's such a complicated engagement for MarineLorD to take. I mean, Stephano to take as well. I know I'm being a little Terran focused here, but they really do have a lot of spellcasters for Stephano to take care of, since he went for fungals as well. He's got to try and control the corruptors to target fire the Vikings one by one instead of all just firing different directions. He's got to make sure that the Vipers have enough energy. He's got to make sure the broodlords don't just derp out in front of everything and suddenly get in range of the Thors, like severely in range of the Thors. But MarineLorD is the one that's going to have to try and split. And if he does go for tanks, he's going to have to try and focus fire on the ground army, not on his own units, basically, with them trying to clean up the broodlings. Tanks try to help. They're very bad at helping their teammates. Stephano took this base at some point. Now he's actually mining from it. There hasn't been a lot of Blue Flame Hellion attacks. So much so has been about just main engagements, which MarineLorD has done a great job hitting those timings, right? So, you know, it's totally fine for the first 15 minutes of the game that didn't happen. But for the last 7 minutes, it would have been nice to have Stephano's drone count a little more cold. Maybe like he was stuck at 50 without realizing it. Suddenly he doesn't have a big enough bank. The MarineLorD's attempts to harass didn't go so well whenever he did try. And now there's so much stacked defense that they would have to be ultra committed to even do anything. So we're back to just trying to take a really, really stupidly good engagement. MarineLorD is down, 40 army supply. Fungals blanket his army. They don't do a ton of damage, but they still keep them in place, especially with a parasitic bomb combination. Planetary not being repaired, so it probably will fall soon enough. Narrow parasites come down on the Thors. Good focus fire, I believe, from the tanks to take those out quickly, but it's still not good enough. GG. Hey, GG, can you cast some Peely WCS qualifier games later? He isn't playing in the European qualifiers. Plays in the American one. Next map's Kairos Junction. Whoever loses here is out of the qualifiers. Well, this qualifier. They can always try again for game number 3. Qualifier number 3. Damn it. And I'm certain that both of them will try qualifier number 3 come Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, whatever. Depends what time zone you're in. Whoever wins is not out of the fire yet. They will have to face Ziggy for the qualifying match in the losers bracket. Score. In the bottom right is the red tear, and it is MarineLorD. In the top left is the blue Zerg. It is Stephano. MarineLorD with a pretty good 3 racks in the first game. Stephano almost held it, but not quite, so that's a win for MarineLorD here. Then tries to go for a mech push, a very strong mech push, very well timed, executed. Macro was on point there for MarineLorD. Almost caught Stephano, but Stephano did defend that game and really took control after that. I know that some of those fights were better than I was hyping them up to be, but they still ultimately went in the Zerg's favor because of how much bank economy that Stephano was able to grab. And honestly, as good as that one fight was, where I was surprised, I was like, oh, okay, this is okay, huh, okay. I'm certain if we reanalyzed it, we could see that Stephano had something XYZ missing. At the time, I said he maybe lacked Vipers, and I'll hold to that. Vipers are very useful, but it's just, it's not my own games here. As much as I suck, and I lose against Zerg players with my mech because I suck, it's all the pro games I watch where this happens. Occasionally, if it's a, tense enough game, lots of back and forth, lots of harassment everywhere, Thors do the job, Vikings do the job, Cyclones do the job. That's typically when you're finding the Zerg player kind of running around, not quite with their maxed army altogether. Their Broodlord count's still low, for instance, or maybe it's high, but they have no corruptors, so the Vikings get a couple of fun freebie kills, right? Like, those are situations that we usually see the wins. Otherwise, it's kind of like the mech player either wins with their ground army, right? Or they lose to the Broodlord army. It's not always how it goes. There also is the subject of how much economy did the Zerg player manage to get, and I know, but with the setup that was there, I felt like I knew it was going to come. And that was a GG from MarineLorD. That might just deter him from going mech. It's also a map where there is a really nice tank push to be had, and considering we know that when unfazed, when he doesn't have any Ling run bys or anything to deal with, MarineLorD can do a very sick macro build. I think he might just try and go for it. Over to the left side, where this Reaper's going to see the third hatchery, is that nice little spot. Zerg players are very mindful of it, of course, and it's not the end-all be-all push. They have the creep spread, they have a nice set of army units ready to go in case that is pushed. But then we see some Zerg players continue to expand to the left side, Terrans match them, and it becomes quite a tug of war. Which, until the, Broodlords are out, or Vipers are out, or whatever it is, Zergs usually have more trouble defending what is a strong rally push from the Terran. We saw that for the Tang Open, actually. Kelazur versus Namshar played on this map in these positions, and it was a very tense game. So chat, most of you are cool. I love most of y'all. I do. And this is coming from a good place, I know. But you have to realize that you're talking to a person who literally uses their voice for a living. And you're telling them to do the most obvious shit. It's I know you're being nice. But the next person who tells me that honey plus tea is an amazing thing for your throat, I'm gonna slap. I'm gonna slap through the internet. Okay? Alright? Noguchi? Good. You see, it's like almost, it's backseat recovering. Stop backseat recovering me. So, I look back at this base and I see something very important. I'm sure Stephano's also keeping tabs on it. There's no third command center here. What can that mean? Well, it could be a fusion core, there could be an armory, and boom, there's the Hellbats. Did Stephano prepare for this? No, he did not, so he must not have been thinking about what the wall was presenting, and it's not that the supply depot wall is the ultimate scout for this. Scout in the armory is the ultimate scout for it. But it could have been maybe an indicator. The queens, though, with a huge concave and just sheer numbers of them, are able to push this back. So Stephano, with only a tiny amount of lings here to support for just a little while, are able to push that back. Takes minimal damage to his drone line. Takes no damage to his queens, I'm pretty sure. This one ended up living. And did finally make more lings. He didn't actually have to. So Stephano gets away with all the droning that he did prior to that. So maybe he did realize, and that was his answer, was more queens. But now he sees a third CC on the way. Kelzer was building his third CCs behind, both to maybe fake out his opponent on the front, but also to make sure no ling attacks. Canceled command centers, because if they get a concave, they can get a cancel. MarineLorD is not deterred by last game's mech. He is going to go for it again. Maybe he changes things up, though. We do only have one armory, after all, and it is going into the armor, so I'm going to predict Cyclones. That's going to change up the pacing quite a bit. It's going to be like watching a bio player, except that we don't have stimmed bio and medevacs. We have Cyclones and Hellions running back and fro, back and two, back and two, back and back, blah, blah, blah. And they get really annoying. That's how we see a lot of players do it. Some players still do the old, just I have a lot of Cyclones and Hellbats, come at me, bro, and they win that way, but what is the MarineLorD gonna do? He knows where the bases are. He's trying to keep tabs on the creep spread, which is getting quite out of control. Lots of creep tumors being placed down. Makes sense, find a lot of extra queens. Stephano, not using his Overlord for a scout, but already building a Roach Warren, Infestation Pit, and Hydralisk Den, is figuring out by just the sheer number of Hellions that it is going to be a mech build. But this time he might be surprised by the quickness of a mech attack. It's not going to depend on having a, good number of tanks or a good number of upgrades. It's going to just depend on, do I have Cyclones and Hellions? Yes, okay, I can do what I want. Obviously not quite true, but no, it's kind of works out that way. They're speedy little bastards. And the only thing that can catch them are the lings, which the Hellions take care of, Blue Flame or not. So as long as you don't get surrounded, you can go ahead and start pressuring here, which is exactly what MarineLorD's going to start to do. Cyclones are funny. They look really dumb when they try and take a straight up engagement, but when they're cowards, when they just literally lock on and run away, they're really, really strong. I don't care if Cyclones end up being the meat and potatoes of Terran compositions. I don't care. I will always make fun of them. They're stupid little boxes that have had stupid metas. I don't care if they're useful. I don't care if I depend on them literally to survive early attacks. They're dumb. They make you feel dumb. 6 SCVs go down, but I think more importantly, they pull the Cyclones back. Not that they were doing a lot of damage, but the problem is that they do continued damage. They always run forward, then run back, boom, suddenly lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 queens. Then you start losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hydras. Suddenly your hatchery goes down. This is all about value right now. A lot of controls going into this. In some ways, maybe even more difficult than playing a bio, because at least with bio, you eventually get to your siege up point, right? Where your Widow Mines are burrowed, your tanks are sieged. Here, you're always controlling your army, always retreating back as soon as the lock-ons go down. And whenever you don't, you lose the Cyclones very, very quickly. It's not honey that's good for your throat, but bees. Oh man, I've been doing it wrong the entire time. Alright, so if one position is a little too overrun by Zerg, then just change positions. Creep spread denial is going to be very important. They're going to start losing track of where the army is. And almost like in a ZVZ, they're going to be losing bases and drones and armies because they don't know where their opponent's coming from. And their opponent could be very much just going right down the middle of the road and they won't see it, right? Because they'll be trying to split their army against multiple attacks, and then it's that one avenue you don't have scouted, you aren't prepared against, that suddenly a good Cyclone mech player will find and kill you for. So it's a very tense game, even though it doesn't look like there's a lot going on here. A lot of action. 11 drones have gone down. 5th and 6th base is on the way for Stephano as more Hellion run-bys attempt to happen here. So MarineLorD going for more of a big bulk army, going for one attack, than trying to split it apart, but is still making sure to have run-bys, which is very important. As we can see, the temporary, that's basically Stephano reacting and then like realizing he reacted. In that little span of time, the hatchery goes down. Just a little bit of a miss micro. As he saw the Hellions running into the drone line, suddenly his hatchery goes down. That's what happens. This hatchery is also found out, so now Stephano has a very wide range, right, area to protect from what could only be 3 cyclones. Suddenly they do pop off hatcheries. MarineLorD's also keeping up the pace with what you should be. I learned this much from playing it, but then you watch like Fantasy do it too, and you realize this is a fast expansion process as well. It's about constant use of your army. It's also about fast expansions. So you're constantly expanding and taking over the map. You're preparing for transitions later on into Liberators. And you're making sure that you control the map, never the Zerg player. Because once the Zerg player gets their creep spread out and about, once they feel comfortable enough to split their army with Vipers, suddenly your splits of armies aren't nearly as good because Vipers are very effective against this. And you need to keep control over the game. The Vipers are out. And while, yes, Cyclones can lock onto them and demolish them pretty quickly, they can also abduct the Cyclones pretty quickly. Ling Roach run by, something like along those lines. Kill a couple of SCVs, but drones are also going down somewhere. I'm actually not sure where that happened. There are the abducts. Liberators come forward, though, and at this point, you're kind of just hoping that you have more units than they have abducts, which Stephano tried to make sure wouldn't be the case with 8 flipping Vipers. Blinding Cloud does work against Cyclones who are being aggressive, like MarineLorD's doing, but the aggressive push forward here ends up doing wonders as most of his Cyclones live, or a good portion of them do, and they take out a hefty chunk of expensive gas units of Stephano. Did the Vipers go down? Yes, 4 of them went down, so that was a decent trade. Unfortunately, he did lose 19 workers behind that, just not cleaning up the roaches quite enough, like a couple are left over. So he has been knocked down a peg in the economy, but really not that much. Still 62. The Cyclones weren't quite quick enough to find the hatchery before the Hydra is reinforced, and Stephano, with all the attempts at harassment that MarineLorD has done, has still been able to get a steady 5 bases with a good drone count. Here's Liberator once again doing damage. Thought maybe there's a big drone count here, not really worthwhile. Spineclaw's gonna take out the Hellions. It's still mostly about Stephano's original 4 bases. As time goes on, more drones will transfer over to the unprotected, vulnerable bases to the left and right, but not yet. Liberator range is on the way, which is going to be difficult to deal with harassment-wise. The Vipers will have to go back with any army trying to defend against them, because their range will maybe be enough. Yeah, I think it will be enough. He's gonna have high ground vision as well. Uh-oh, MarineLorD. I think one thing he was missing maybe was sensor towers, but it looks like his army is in proper place. Not fast enough, though. Loses the planetary. Building armor was not done, but that was just a huge amount of army, and MarineLorD's gonna tap out. Even with that push forward.